Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach to everyone. Welcome to Suddamoon.com. You are listening to our 8th day celebration today. It is now 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and whatever time it is where you are. But today's the 8th day feast. It's a little cool and damp here in Ontario. It's been a cool and damp week. It started off as a beautiful, nice, sunny, warm week. We've enjoyed it. It has been a good feast. It's been a different feast. This is a feast many of us will probably remember. It's not the one that we would all wanted to do. And it's a month earlier than most of us expected. So this is a very different year. The world has not stopped. We are getting pictures from California of a completely orange glow. People are talking about Armageddon out there, and they're wondering what's going on. But nobody's repenting. Nobody's repenting. Fires are, I think there's 19 killed by the wildfires out there now. The whole West Coast is covered in smoke. We started off this feast, and I don't know if you all noticed it. I mentioned in the newsletter that Friday night, or Thursday night. Friday night, there was a pink orange moon that my wife told me about. Saturday night, there was again a dark yellow moon. And then the next night, again, there was a dark yellow moon. Now this is the full moon on the at the beginning, but then it's in the, what is it, waxing or waning? I forget which it is. It's getting smaller, but it's still dark yellow. And how come that shouldn't be that way? But it is. We have multiple witnesses seeing it from Zambia to North America. So it was kind of very interesting week. Now we all know what a dark moon represents. It represents a famine coming. And we also know what a red moon or a pink moon or called a blood moon, what it represents. It represents war coming. Again, this is coming in this year of 2020. And it's coming after we've had blood moons and dark moons in 2014, 2015, and 2016 on the high holy days. NASA didn't call for a blood moon at this time, at this feast this year. So it's been a very interesting week, and the world has not stopped. So we've got Kurk, and Kurk, I just drew a blank on your last name, Kurk Mcpherson. He's been bugging me all week. He really wanted to teach something here today. And so I put my notes aside, and Kurt's going to teach us this morning. But before we do, we're going to start with we're going to begin this with a prayer. And you know, the great thing about this teaching today, it looks like we're in the wilderness, and we're on our way to the Exodus somewhere, and we're being taught on the Sabbath out in the woods. Which I'm kind of looking forward to this. It's going to be interesting. So if y'all just bow your heads. Our Father Jehovah, our King, our Savior, our Messiah, our Redeemer, our husband. Our husband. We thank you so much, Father, for the holy days. We thank you for the many lessons we learn about you on them. We thank you, Father, for the things that you teach us about your plan of salvation. And we look back to when we weren't following you, weren't walking in this way, and we realize how little we actually knew, even though we thought we knew a lot. We thank you for calling us. We thank you for removing the veil from our eyes. We thank you for calling us in such a way that we would answer that calling and not ignore it. We thank you, Father, for this opportunity to be together with brethren of like mind, with brethren who are learning, with brethren who are wanting to know you, and who love each other. We ask your blessing upon today's services. We ask your blessing upon the teacher and the technology that's involved in making this happen for all of us around the world, which, just a few years ago, Father, we were struggling to make that happen. Now it's just easy as turning on your computer. So we thank you for that opportunity that we have. We ask your blessing. We ask that you be here with us this day. And we ask that you guide all that's said and all that's commented on and afterwards. And we thank you, Father, for all these things. And we pray that we are bringing glory to the name of Jehovah in all that we do. Amen. And so with that introduction, I'd like to turn it over to Kurk Mcpherson, who is in the woods in Saskatchewan. He's going to teach us about the word booth. It's yours, Kurt. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, where do I start? We are in the woods of Saskatchewan. I guess maybe what I'll do. So we'll see. I'm not as eloquent of a teacher as Joe is, so you're gonna have to hang in there with me. Bear with me. You might see some of my inspiration. You might know the people that you can see that I've been inspired by. I'll take you for a little tour first, I suppose. I'll get the camera off the tripod and take you for a short tour. I'll show everybody where we are. I'd like to show you my Succa, my booth, show you what I've been living in for a week. I spent one night in my tent. The rest I've spent in the Succa. It's been valuable to me to experience that. I've never done it before. In all my years of camping, I've never slept under a bunch of branches. So I'll quickly do that because that's the focus. So my intent is to, what are we going to do? Let's go to Leviticus 23 verse.
Okay, do you want me to bring that up there on the screen for everybody?
If you would, Joe, let's go there first because that's the reason we're here.
Okay, Leviticus 23.
We've got this command.
Hang on, Kurt, 1 second. Okay, where are you starting?
We're going to start in, well, it all begins in 34.
Okay.
But the important part where the focus is 23:42. That's my focus. But we all know what it says to lead up to that, but maybe we should read it anyways. I'll get my Bible just in case I missed something here. Unless maybe someone else wants to read. Is there a volunteer to read? Or should I do it?
You go ahead, do it. And you can.
Okay.
So I've got 23:33 up on the screen here.
Okay. Yeah, if you've got that, people can follow along with that. You may have to bear with, I don't know what the noise might be like, but we're only, I bet we're not 100 yards from the highway. Could be a little loud at times, depending what's going by, so I apologize for that. It says, then Jehovah spoke to Moses, speak to the children of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days to Jehovah. On the first day there shall be a holy convocation. You shall do no customary work on it. For 7 days you shall offer an offering made by fire to Jehovah. On the 8th day, today, you shall have a holy convocation, and you shall offer an offering made by fire to Jehovah. It is a sacred assembly, and you shall do no customary work on it. These are the feasts of Jehovah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocations, to offer an offering made by fire to Jehovah, a burnt offering and a grain offering, a sacrifice and drink offerings, everything on its day. Besides the Sabbaths of the Jehovah, besides your gifts besides all your vows, besides all your free will offerings, which you give to Jehovah. Also, on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of Jehovah for 7 days. On the first day, there shall be a Sabbath rest, and on the 8th day, a Sabbath rest. So he's trying to get the point across here, saying that the first day and the 8th day, a couple of times. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day of the fruit of beautiful trees, branches of palm trees, the boughs of leafy trees, the willows of the brook, and you shall rejoice before Jehovah your God 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to Jehovah for 7 days in the year. It shall be a statute forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Now this is the key part here, as far as what I'm trying to draw attention today to. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths. That your generations, so there's what we're supposed to do, dwell in booths and take some branches of trees. And then the purpose for all that is here in 43. That your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Jehovah your God. So Moses declared to the children the feast of Jehovah. That's the word booth. Now I'm going to step out for a second. The word booth, that's what we're talking about. So what is a booth? Does anybody know? Well, I looked it up in Gage's dictionary, the one I got back in grade 9. Had to have it. I don't even know if they have to have dictionaries in school anymore or not. So Gage's says a booth is a place where goods are displayed for sale at a market, fair, etc. 2, a small closed place for a telephone, motion picture projector, a small closed place for voting at elections, a partly enclosed place in a restaurant or cafe. Okay, how does that help you define what it says in the Bible that was written a while back? Doesn't seem to be relevant. So you're going to have to get out your concordance. I use Strong's Concordance. Find the definition for the word, the Hebrew word, because as everybody knows, or hopefully, maybe not everybody, but those English words that you're reading on the page in front of you, that's a translation. The original was written in Hebrew. Actually, Paleo Hebrew, which is even more challenging. It's much more interesting, actually. We'll get there. We'll touch on some of that. If I can get over my being nervous and I can remember what I'm trying to say. So the Hebrew word for booth is, in this case, it says ba Sukkoth. So the bet is a prefix. And so the actual word is Strong's 5521. It's Succa, which is a feminine of 5520. The definition that Strong's has for it is a hut or lair, booth, cottage, covert, pavilion, tabernacle, tent. So it mentioned 5520. Well, we better go have a look at that. That says it's from 5526. We'll have to go further down the rabbit hole. 5520 is Suk, summit, Kof. A hut as of entwined boughs, also a lair, covert, den, pavilion, tabernacle, tent. Pretty much the same definition. The hut, the word lair is an interesting one to think about. 5526. I hope you guys are taking notes today. I don't have a PowerPoint for you to share. I don't have an electronic form. I can mail you my papers if you like. But hopefully you're writing this stuff down. 5526 is Samak Kaf Ka. So that would sound like Sakak, Sukak, something like that. It says it's a primary root, which that's interesting in itself, that a primary root would have a double letter. It says properly to entwine as a screen, by implication to fence in, cover over, protect, cover, defense, defend, hedge in, join together, set, shut up. So hopefully you'll see, keep these words in mind, these definitions. Keep them in mind. I'm going to take you on a tour of my interpretation of a Succa. There's different ones. There's different types. I'll take you on a tour here in a few minutes. So another help that I use for study purposes is Klein's Red Dictionary. Hope you don't mind me stepping out of the camera once in a while. This is quite a valuable tool for Bible study. This is probably, well, it's one very valuable tool. Between Strong's Concordance and this book, what do we call this? Ernest Klein's Comprehensive Etymological Dictionary of the Hebrew Language for Readers of English. Very valuable. I suggest you get your hands on one if you're so inclined. So Klein says for Succa, Samat Kaf He, so that's the first word we looked at. To look, see. That's interesting. It just told us about being covered as a tent. Second definition is booth, tabernacly, literally covert from Samat Kaf Ka. Samat Kaf Ka is to screen, cover. If you start, sometimes what happens when you look on a page in Klein's is that you'll find one definition for a word, and then you go down, there's another one, then another one. Sometimes there's up to 12. I've seen 12 different definitions for the same word. So it can really give you a lot of food for thought anyways, put it that way. And this one's kind of like that. Its main definition is to screen, to cover. Also, material for the roof of the tabernacle. Now, listen to this one. Thatcher. The definition, the last definition for, or it's not the last, basically the last definition for Samat Kaf Ka is thatcher. So a person who, that's the guy who builds the roof. He's the final guy. Somebody's built the frame, all the sturdy work, all the foundation work. Then somebody comes along, called a thatcher, called a Sakak, I don't know. I'm not sure about the vowel points in this case. Somebody might be able to help me out later. That's the name. The guy who does the work, he has the same name as the material for the roof and the cover itself. So your occupation, your actual name is what you're doing, which is interesting. So, okay. I think it's time to take you for a tour. Bear with me. I'm going to unhook the phone off the tripod. It'll be a little messy for a second, and I'll take you for a short tour of my interpretation, my physical manifestation of what I interpreted these words to mean. So here we go. Hopefully we don't lose you. Big hand in the way. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm gonna back up a little bit. So what do we got here? Here's the camp. Can't really see much. Looks like a bunch of sticks. Can't really tell what that is actually. But if we get up closer, we made some signs for everybody's tents. Everybody's got a sign. This is what I chose. I've got some of my materials. I've got some rope. Now look at the structure. That's the point to draw attention to how this structure is put together. This side's a little weak. We needed to make one more trip to the Succa Mart. Now I'm going to take you inside. Here's what the inside looks like. There's where I've been sleeping, under that tarp. And look at the structure. Now here's my thatching job. Actually, Stuart made a trip to the Succa Mart to get the thatching, so I guess he's the Succa today. Succa. Willow branches. What you can see, the thatching is willow, and a lot of the structure is willow, but the main structure is poplar. Long, straight poplars. Here's my roof. It's got this great big hole in it. It's maybe not as open as it could be because I've got trees above me. So it really was quite difficult to see the stars. Here's the door. Now, I hope this is working out. I don't know how it's working. Not sure if you can see. I'm gonna try to show you that the door frame is twisted. It's all the little branches all twisted together. Which thumb? This one? Sorry about the thumb. Okay, I'm gonna back off. You can see out my door. There's the house over there. We're trying really hard to stay out of the house as much as possible. There's someone coming out. Good morning, Jenny. Okay, here's the camp. Here's the campers.
Shalom!
And there's our other tents, succas. There's succas also. Actually, the word is ohel, but we'll get to that. Okay. long as I didn't cut you off. No, now what do I do?
Take it out and then flip it sideways and then flip it back out.
Like that?
Yeah, now flip it sideways. Oh no.
Okay, hang on, bear with me. Are we back? Are we back? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Okay, let me get my notes again. So there's, I don't know how much detail you were able to see. I'm not a videographer, not yet anyway. So you can see what a hut made of branches and woven together looked like. They act as a screen. These branches all come to the ground. If you get them in there good, you can make it so that a wild animal could easily come up and sniff, but they'd know something was inside there, but you're protected because you've got this woven screen around you. Now, I didn't get to the door. Didn't make a door. That would be handling. Need a mallet. So I'll take a little poke at some of my former affiliation. Some of your Bibles are going to say, in place of booth, it will say temporary dwelling. Now, the people of the teachers, my former teachers, would say a hotel classifies as a temporary dwelling. And as far as English it goes, yes, that would apply. But the book wasn't written in English. This is your temporary dwelling, your Succa. It's very temporary. The leaves are starting to dry up already and starting to fall off. It's not going to be as protective as it once was on your first few days. So the word booth was used 3 times in a row. Very, very close succession there. To me, that says, listen up. When things are repeated, so where are we headed now? We could look at a couple of scriptures before I get into any speculation. Let's look at Nehemiah 14 to 16.
Nehemiah doesn't have 14 to 16.
Okay, well, that's good. I'm glad I got somebody. Nehemiah 8.
Can you speak up a little, Kurt?
Are you having trouble hearing me?
Yeah, if you could just, when you get farther away and you turn, it's hard to hear you.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll try to keep that in mind. Thank you. You can give me a kick anytime you feel like it.
Maybe Nancy and anyone else, maybe turn up your volume. I'm not having any trouble hearing Kirk at all. Okay, I've got
Probably
it on.
when I was speaking when I turned away from the camera.
I've got Nehemiah 8:14 up on the screen there, Kurt.
Okay. So just so everybody knows, I'm doing this. My phone is the camera and the microphone, and the computer has to stay off with its microphone off so that we don't get feedback. So I don't have access to the computer just yet. We will at the end when I basically finish in front of the board here. So Nehemiah 8, verse 14. They found written in the law, which Jehovah had commanded by Moses, that the children of Israel should dwell in booths during the feast of the 7th month, that they should announce and proclaim in all their cities and in Jerusalem, saying, go out to the mountain, bring olive branches, branches of oil trees, myrtle branches and palm branches, branches of leafy trees, to make booths, as it is written. Then the people went out, brought them, and made themselves booths, each one on the roof of his house, or in their courtyards, or in the courts of the house of God, and in the open square of the water gate, and in the open square of the gate of Ephraim. So the whole assembly of those who had returned from the captivity made booths and sat under booths, for since the days of Joshua, the son of Nun, until the day the children of Israel had not done so. Until that day, the children of Israel had not done so, and there was very great gladness. Also, day by day, from the first day until the last day, he read from the book of the law of God. And they kept the feast 7 days, and on the 8th day there was a sacred assembly according to the prescribed manner. So there's another description. Tells you about the trees. Now, if you were in Israel, maybe you would collect those specific species, but I actually don't think it's specific species. It's about the function of those trees. What are they going to do? So when you look at, when we go in and start tearing apart all of those 4 different species, we're going to have a mess here soon, I can tell. There's different words used for each. Now you're going to have to bear with me. I got to get a different book. I got to get my interlinear. This one helps me define which word we're looking at and which English word applies to which Hebrew word. It makes it very easy. So let's find those 4 species. Where are we going to look at this? We can find Leviticus 23. I'm just trying to find the Hebrew words for the 4 different trees is what I'm looking for, so that I don't lead you astray from my notes, because sometimes they're not quite as good as the book itself. I want 4 different trees. Okay, here we are. So Leviticus 23, verse 40. Says, take on the first day boughs of goodly trees, or branches of goodly trees. Trees is ots. 8s. Ayin zadi. And the branches of palm and boughs of thick trees. So there's the word 8s again. A boat is the word for thick. Thick, bushy, dense, interwoven, and tangled. Branches, the word for branches is interesting. That's kapot. Kaf, pe, tet. I don't have it in front of me, but that sounds a lot like kippah. It means a covering. A kippah is a covering. I'm probably too close to the camera. So those words are related. It might tell you something about the function. What other words have we got? Willows of the brook. Arbe. Sounds like arborist. Do you think those words are related? Sounds like arborist is a Hebrew word to me. Arbe. Vav, Ayin, Resh, Bet, Yod. Arav. Its root is sunset, evening, pleasant, sweetness. That's interesting. Doesn't really describe a tree, does it? Okay, what's the next word we're looking for? Palms. Palms is tamarim. Tamar would be the root. And that one, I don't have that one in my notes. But I do know that we looked it up. It does mean palm, something tall. Pillar was a word that was involved there. That's what a palm tree looks like. Okay, there must be some other, we got hadar. So the word, when it says goodly trees, branches of goodly trees, the word is hadar, is to adorn, honor, return, repeat, ornament, citrus fruit, etrog. So there's where we get the use of the word the etrog. Maybe we'll get Somber to show us her etrog. So we don't have any of these trees here. But we've got thick trees. We've got dense, bushy trees. We've got willows. And we've used those. I've actually only got 2 species in my Succa. But if you look at some of these other bushes around, they are definitely interwoven and twisted and just kind of generally bushy. So it fits the description. That's my point, is that it's not about the actual word, it's how it works. It's like the paleo yod is a working hand. It's all about function. What else have I got here for you? So, okay, I think that's all I got for notes. Here's another one, an interesting thing. Hopefully you can kind of keep all these things in mind, so when we go to start discussing, we can dig out some of these things. One of the definitions for Samak Ka is thorn, splinter. Also, it's booth, enclosure. Do you think you might get a thorn stuck in your hand, maybe, or take a splinter into your hand while you're building one of these? It's funny how the definitions actually describe the process even. So now I'm going to go into a little bit of, you could maybe not speculation, but I think we've got the first Exodus, the Passover, and there's talk about a second Exodus. I believe that this process, going through building the Sukkah each year, is going to help you immensely when it comes time for the second Exodus. What's going to be the catalyst? Somewhere in Matthew, it says that there's going to be a time to flee. And it says to go. Don't even come back to your house. So that bug out bag that you've got nicely put together, and you've got rations, and you've got your all sorts of supplies. You've got string and knives and flashlights and batteries, and you got food stored in there. You probably got 100 pounds worth of stuff. You figure you might be able to live for a while off of that. But it says, don't even come back. So that bug out bag's going to do you no good at all. It's all going to be, this is your bug out bag. What's in here? What's in your head? Like this was a great exercise. And actually, in the end, I can see that there's only one way that we're actually going to make it. If we have to turn and leave our houses and walk away to where, it didn't say to the airport and get picked up. It just says to leave. Well, now what? How are you going to make it? It'll be God by Jehovah's grace alone that we actually can pull this off. We've got a really comfortable camp here. There's probably, I don't know, 300 pounds of branches and stuff that it took, and I've got a whole ball of string. There's 500 feet of string was used in the camp just from one ball. We've got all these pots and pans, and we got a pizza oven that weighs 3,000 pounds by itself to cook on. What a luxury. None of that stuff is going to be available to us. You might have a pot. You might have had a knife in your pocket. Maybe you had a lighter, matches, maybe. When it comes down to it, our survival will be by he's going to provide for us, just like in the first Exodus. So it makes me think that there's actually there's a parallel. So what does it say about the first Exodus? Well, I remember a scripture. I went looking. I wanted to find the one that it talked about how to eat the Passover. Here's my staff. About the first Passover, it says you're supposed to eat it with your loins girded, your sandals on your feet, your staff in your hand, and to eat it in haste. But I couldn't find that one right away. And I stumbled on this other scripture, which kind of, it threw me for a loop, as these things tend to happen. So where I thought I was going is not where I ended up. I did find the scripture in the end, what I was looking for, but I found Deuteronomy 16, verse 7. If you could bring that one up, Joe, would be good. So, Deuteronomy 16, verse 7. We're talking about the Passover, the first one. This is actually a review. Specifically in verse 7. And you shall roast and eat it in the place which Jehovah your God chooses. And in the morning, wait for it, you shall turn and go to your tents. Never considered that before. Never stayed in a tent for Passover. It's usually, what was it this year? March? Probably wouldn't have been very pleasant staying in a tent in Canada, but it's one of the words. The word tent in that case is ohel. Aleph, Hey, Lamed. We're going to take a look at that. Its numbers climbs in Klein's is 168. Oh hell. Covering, dwelling place, home, tabernacle, tent. It's from 166, which is the primitive primary root. Happens to be the same letters. Aleph, Hey, Lamed. Well, go to Klein's, look up Hey Lamed, because quite often an Aleph can be a prefix. It means brilliance, radiance. How does that apply to a tent? Also means tent, tabernacle, shelter. So there's some clues there. The word for morning is Klein's 1242. Bo boker, ba boker. I think it's bo boker. From 1239, properly dawn, as the break of day, generally morning. So that maybe gives us a little, there's two words used in the same sentence. The first word, when it suggests brilliance and radiance, that leans into the word morning. The root, 1239, boker, to plow, break forth, to inspect, admire, care for, consider. Breaking forth of the morning. So does that mean we're supposed to eat the Passover in the evening and then in the morning when it's bright out, in the brilliance of the sun, that we're supposed to go to our tents? Does that mean we're supposed to stay up all night? That's what it sounds like. And then we can, another, what do we got here? Bet Kuf Resh. Where have we got Bet Kuf Resh? So that's the root, is Bet Kuf Resh. To cleave, split, to abandon, mourning, cattle herd, oxen, cow herd, critic reviewer. When I was considering this, I was considering the people driving cattle across North America and who those people were. Maybe I was thinking about old movies, these drovers driving their cattle. And if you're a critic reviewer, you'd be looking at your cattle before you took them to market. And then it made me think about who inspected the lambs for the temple. What's the word for that guy? So some of this stuff is questions that I'm gonna leave you with. I'm not gonna give you all the answers because I don't have them. That's what a Bible study is usually comes up with more questions. So the reason for this is I could see a relationship between the first Exodus Passover and Sukkoth, in that it's a rehearsal for the second Exodus. And then when you start thinking about if we're supposed to have tents at Passover, is which one's the rehearsal for which one? Is tabernacles the rehearsal for Passover? Or is Passover a rehearsal for tabernacles? Or are they just a circle and they're tied together? And you can't really tell which one's the beginning and which one's the end. We know that, what that is. You know, we know that the first month begins and the Passover's the beginning, but they're directly connected to each other. And this is our wedding feast. And that's not the subject that I'm speaking on today. It's not my expertise, let's say. What do we got? let's take a look at some of the letters involved, maybe. We can do a little bit of that, and then I'm just about done here, and then we'll get into questions. Suk, you might have trouble. I didn't draw these big enough. Samak Ka Hey. Samak Ka Hey. So Samak in Paleo Hebrew is a structure. Kaf is an open. Kaf is an open hand, just like that. It's like it's offering something to you. You can take this if you want. I'm not going to pull it back. It's free offering. Hey is a window, so it's something revealed. So by building my Succa, he said, do this. So I did it. And he revealed some things to me in the process. Very thought-provoking operation, and to sleep in it. When I woke up the other morning, there's the moon right out my door. It was a quarter moon. Oh man, this is just about done. Sobering. I want to show you something. I'm going to take the camera off again. If I can do this, there's a picture that I've got on my board here that I feel is worthy to show you. Now I got a little bit of stuff in the way. Can you see that, Joe? Can you see what this is?
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, we can see it.
I'm not going to move it. Get rid of this string. So what that is, that's a structure. This is at the Highland Museum in Newtonmore, Scotland, or actually between Newtonmore and whatever that town was, just north of it. This is what my ancestors lived in back in the 1200s and earlier, obviously. That is much the same as what I just built. There's the thatched roofs. Here's the structure. This is the samak. Here's the woven. This is what would be called wattle and daub, but it doesn't have the mud applied to it. It's just branches woven together to make a wall. And then they would fill this area in with stones and sod, and then they'd go and put, it's called the heather that they used to thatch the roof with. Like that. These things are all tied together. The ancient Scots have, I believe Gaelic language has quite a tie to Hebrew. Where did they get these things from? Is this a Succa? Sure looks like one. A little more permanent. But that's one thing we didn't know. When he said, oh no, what did I do this time? What did I do? What did I do? Is it going to turn? There we are. Okay. Lost my thought. Yes.
Some questions. Nancy's asking, where did you get thorns from? From the
Okay. Nancy, I'm going to look up Suk, Samak Ka. We'll look that up now. And see where I pulled that from.
Oh, she was asking from scripture, but it wasn't in scripture. It was a definition, right?
It's a definition, yeah. All the scriptural references are specifically the word booth.
Yeah, I
So
get
if you go-
Succa, but I can't get the Samiak. I can't find it.
Sukkoth.
Yeah, I get Sakak, and when I get Sakak, I can come. Well, that just kind of ends there.
Yeah. Well, it depends which book I was looking at the moment, and
It was the Klein's dictionary.
my my bibliography, let's say, is not quite what Joe's is. So we've been spoiled with Joe's research and ability to verify and document where he went. Summit Cough, Yod Tet Tet Yod Cough. Summit Cough.
Kurt, your picture seems to have
Booth.
frozen on your camera, on your phone.
My phone's
Plug it in.
It just seems to be frozen. You seem to have taken a snapshot and left it there.
okay. Okay. Can you still hear me? Yeah. Where are we? Where are we? Zoom. No, you're.
Well, if you're finished, you can
Maybe
go
we
to
should
the
just
computer.
go to the table. Let's go to the computer. I'll turn this off. Try to, because that's about. Okay, bear with me, you guys.
Tell Joe to take his phone off the screen.
Yeah, Joe, can you take my phone off the screen?
There you go.
Phone is live?
Hello, Kurt. Have we lost you everywhere? We seem to have lost Kurt. I can see Stuart on his computer if you want to go there. Okay, we got sound there. You're on live.
Here we go. Are we on? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. So Nancy, your question was Summit Cough. How did I find that? Sometimes what happens, you just got to read the dictionary. That's just read the dictionary. Just read the English words, and you don't actually even have to read Hebrew yet. And there's things jump off the page. And sometimes you'll stumble on things that you weren't looking for.
I'm just trying to connect booze with Samiak is all. And I can't do it. So I'm trying to figure out how you can help me connect the two together.
Okay, the word booth is Summit Cough Hay. To look, see, booth, tabernacle. So we're on page 445. If we go up, just above that, we've got Summit Cough. Modern noun, large crowd. What happens at the Feast of Tabernacles? Can be a large crowd sometimes. In our past, I know I've heard stories about 5,000 and 6,000, even more. Biggest feast I've been to was 1,300. Never felt more alone in my life. Also means amount, some, cover, screen, thicket, hut. But where did I find thorn? Well, I don't expect you to bear with me till I find it.
Well, you had somic cough as a word for thorn and splinter.
Exactly. I just don't see it right now. I thought I saw it when I was coming here, but I don't know. Sorry, can't tell you exactly where I pulled that from. Might have been one of my other books. Might have been this one, Strong's Dictionary. It's a good one because it'll show different words. But you can see when you got a hay can be a suffix, something that's added, like Sarah, Abraham. Abram was his name, and he had a hay added to it to make it Abraham. So it can be an addition. So quite often what happens is that the root word will be 2 letters. You actually look, when you find a word that's got 3 or 4 different letters, go back and see if you can't find a 2-letter root, 2 or 3-letter root. That's going to be your basic word, and then everything is added on to that. But they're all related. You can add a hay, you could add whichever letter you add will still relate back to that 2-letter root. If that helps you at all.
Kurt, have we moved into the Midrash portion of this, or are you still teaching? I'm just, so I know.
That's basically where we are now, is we're moving to the Midrash. I think it'd be good to take questions. That's about all I have for notes.
Okay, so I just, for clarity's sake, why did you want to present this today? Why was it so important for you to present about the booth and the Succa, and why did you want to present this? Because this week when you wrote me or called me, it was urgent.
Well, I didn't have much to say. I was trying to type on my phone, and it's a cumbersome process, so I was short. I kept it short and to the point. But yeah, it's urgent. I feel everybody, I want to share this. I want to share what I've been shown. I've never built a sukkah. 20 years of keeping the Feast of Tabernacles with my former affiliation. I always thought the hotel was wrong. I knew that right from the beginning, because that's not what it said, but everybody says that's what a temporary dwelling is. That's what it is. So I did it. Well, finally I had an opportunity to build a sukkah. Last year we built one. We ate meals in it. It was a much different type structure. That was a rewarding thing. This year I was determined to build a different one, you know, based on what I learned last year. And
but what did you learn? What did you learn? What did you learn by doing this?
Well, first of all, it was an act of obedience because he said to do it. So, okay, I'll do it, I guess. I don't know what you're trying to show me, but I'll do it. And through the process of collecting the branches, tying it together, Stuart and I did the brunt of the work, I guess. We worked together on it, so there's some camaraderie happened. It showed me that through the obedience, I was protected. I had a roof over my head. I've got 3 tents here. I have 3 different options this year. The first night I showed up and I stayed under a tarp, essentially, a ground sheet from the military. The next day, on the first day, I built a outfitter's tent. I've got a, 10 by 12, 10 by 14 outfitter's tent sitting over there. And then I set to building the sukkah. Once I stayed in the sukkah one night, I didn't go back to the outfitter's tent. I didn't need it. I was provided with these branches and whatnot, I was provided. All I needed was an axe and some string, and I was provided shelter. You really wouldn't need the string if you want to tie branches together, more of a twisting rather than tying.
What I'm trying to get you to say, Kurt, is what was the aha moment in doing this? What was, because like I've been to the same group that you were with, and we stayed in hotels all those years, and I had my family, everyone. It was fun, it was comfortable, and my wife is not a camper, so but staying in a hotel room in a different city, and we went to different cities all around the world. It wasn't until I got to Israel in 2005 that I actually saw a sukkah, or actually began to understand what they were for and what they meant. And so what I'm trying to get you to say, and I don't want to say it myself, I want you to say it, is the experience. Like, and I agree with you. When I got in the sukkah in Israel, there were aha moments. And so what is the aha moment that you had in doing, in building this, in sleeping in it, which would be a different one, and waking up in it?
Well, I guess the big aha is that this is nice. This is great. Took me, I don't know, probably took me several hours work went into it, maybe even a half a day probably. There's probably, if you include steward's labor and sombras and all the kids that help drag branches, there's a whole day's worth of labor in there. When we're on our second Exodus, when we're in the middle of our journey to flee, you won't build something like that. It'll be more like a lair. It's going to be something probably no more than a couple feet high that you built out of under a bush that it was kind of suitable to start with. But then you're going to move on. In the morning, you're picking up and you're leaving, and you're going to leave that one behind. And the next night, you're going to build a new one. You'll be building the sukkah every day. Now, maybe not everywhere, but up here, if you get the dew on you at night and you wake up wet in the morning, you're going to have a bad day. So it's really about keeping the dew off yourself, so that you can be dry. Because if you're wet, you're going to freeze to death up here. That's for sure. So that's the aha for me, is that everything we've got, everything we see in front of us, you're not likely to have it with you on your journey.
So let me, okay, Sombra, I see you up there. Just hold on a second. Because of what you were saying there at the beginning, and in my situation here, I took the lawn chair, which is a recliner, and I laid it out underneath my grapevine. And all I could see was the grapes and the branches and stuff like that. And I didn't build a sukkah, but that was a temporary one. But it didn't serve what I was trying to achieve, what I thought I was trying to achieve. So I put my recliner in the middle of the yard, and I had nothing around me. I just had a blanket around me, and I laid there and I watched the stars. And I could see as I wrote in the newsletter last week, I could see the entire story that Jehovah's telling us. And I think it's Psalm 19. This is the one that I go to. And so I'm telling you my aha moment. Yeah, that's it, Psalm 19. So let me just share it with everyone, and I'll read it. Psalm 19:1, to the chief musician, a psalm of David. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the expanse proclaims his handiwork. So you got to ask, what's he talking about here? What is he looking at here? The heavens declare the glory of God. Like how? You look up there, I don't see anything. Day unto day pours forth speech. Now, we used to sing this at the church. Kurt, you used to sing this at your church. I love
Yep.
this song. Day unto day
Yep.
pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. And so you're saying, well, when I sang it, I liked it, but I didn't understand it. It wasn't until, I don't know, 4 or 5 years into the Worldwide Church of God that somebody actually did its teaching on this, which stunned me. It was such a wowzer moment. But at that time, I'm still sleeping in a hotel room, right? Night unto night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, nor are there words. Their voice is not heard. So he's talking to us, but you don't hear a voice. And yet this same unheard voice is heard in every language around the world, and every language around the world understands what this voice is saying. And again, that was such an amazing thing to me. How is this possible? Their line, okay, so that's a circuit. You'll see the moon rise and set in the same line going through the sky almost every day or every night. And it moves up a little higher or down a little lower depending on the season. But it's the same line as it goes through the sky. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them, he has set a tabernacle. So there's your Succa. Okay, so what is that word right there? Okay.
Good question.
In their line is the words in the end of the word and the tabernacle.
Tabernacle 168. Oh hell.
Oh, hell. Okay, so that's one of the words you covered. Dwelling, home, habitation. Okay. Their line has gone, oh, I read that. Tabernacle. He has set a tabernacle for the sun. So he set a Succa for the sun. No hell. And he comes forth as a bridegroom from his canopy. He rejoices as a strong man to run a race. So this now gets very interesting. What is he talking about here? He comes forth as a bridegroom. That's what we just did the whole Feast of Sukkoth about. And he rejoices as a strong man to run a race. So what's that? Well, I'm 63 years old. I don't leap like a little lamb in the field anymore. It's more like a thud. But the young guys, they bounce and they jump. This is our creator. This is our groom that's coming forth. He's full of life. The law of Jehovah is perfect, converting the soul. The testimony of Jehovah is sure, making the simple wise. And I can attest to that. The precepts of Jehovah are right, rejoicing the heart. The commandments of Jehovah are pure, giving light to the eyes, giving understanding. The fear of Jehovah. So what did Yeshua say on the 8th day? I am the light. I am the light. The fear of Jehovah is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of Jehovah are true and righteous altogether. More to be desired than gold, even much fine gold. Sweeter also than honey and the honeycomb. Yeah. You know, like you really think about how valuable is what we are learning from reading his words, from all these different people who are coming on here and teaching. How valuable is that to us?
That, and we're starting to touch on astronomy. It's something that I've been interested in since I was a little kid, but I never took any steps. And just this year, astronomy is starting to come into, it's on the radar.
Yeah.
Well,
let me finish reading this. And your servant is warned by them. In keeping them, there is great reward. Who can understand his errors? Oh, make me pure from the secret faults, my secret sins. You know, there's another prayer. Open my eyes, I may see my secret sins. Open my eyes, and I see your Torah. And keep your servant back from presumptuous sins. You know, presuming that yours is the right way to go. Do not let them rule over me. Then I shall be upright, and I shall be innocent of great transgression. Let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be pleasing in your sight, O Jehovah, my rock and my redeemer. This is, there are a number of songs, how good and how pleasant for brethren to dwell was another one of my favorite, but this was one of my favorite songs. So my aha moment, okay, I'm speaking for me now. I'm not trying to tell you yours. My aha moment was lying in the backyard. Well, actually, years ago in the Succa in Israel, lying in one of them, out of the city, looking up through the, because your Succa is supposed to have holes in the roof. And you're looking up and you're seeing, if you're out of the city, far enough away that the lights aren't affecting the haze, you can see the Milky Way. And to see the Milky Way in all its splendor and glory and colors is unbelievable. The first time I saw that, I had no idea. I was awestruck. But then to lie there quietly without other people talking or interrupting your mind, to then be able to see the constellations, to make out the stars. Like this week I talked about Cetus and Ferris and Andromeda, Pisces and the ribbon, Mars and the moon. And then I can't remember her name, help me, Cassiopeia, combing her hair. That is the great story right there. And we can see that right now in the sky. The other one, watching Virgo go down, the moon below her feet, the sun radiating through her body, the stars in her head, about to give birth, and the serpent below her, about to devour her and about to kill the child. Draco falling down to the earth. The great constellation of the crab, Cancer, which isn't a crab, it's a sheepfold, it's a pen. It's a sheepfold. What's a sheepfold? It's a Succa. There's another, I'd like to do that study one day. How is a sheepfold connected to a Succa? But they are. And they're protected by what? There's only one way into a sheepfold, that's through the door.
The Dalit.
The Dalit, right? There's only one entrance into your Succa.
Who's our door?
The Dalit, yeah. So these are the things that I see when I'm in a Succa. The entire plan of salvation being told to us each day, which means that you have to learn to read the constellations. You have to learn the names of the stars, which reveal these things. It's not a Cancer. It's not a crab. It's a sheepfold. That's what the stars reveal. And in that sheepfold is a secret place. It's a cluster of stars. It's called the secret place. It's called Akubene. Right? Now, the other constellations go with Cancer are the Big Dipper, the Big Bear, and the Little Dipper, and the Good Ship Argo. And we wrote about that in this week's newsletter a bit, or last week, or I forget when. But that's the moment when you're out there underneath the stars. That's why you leave the roof open, so that you can see his message that goes through the sky every night. So, okay, I've had my little preaching session. You want?
It's good. I'm
Go
working
ahead.
on, that was good to do that. I'm working on Nancy's question about thorn, and I've just about got it. It came from the word Succa. So it's actually Oka. 2336 is the number. So you got to get your book out. You get your big book. You get this one out. And you find your way through. You find 2336 in the Hebrew section.
Okay, Kurt, while you're doing that, some people don't know what you're doing or how to do it. Why don't you tell
Probably not.
No, because we're all used to using iPhones now. Tell them.
Yeah, I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah, explain to them how to use this book. It's written in Hebrew in the front and Greek in the back.
Well, so Strong's Concordance, exhaustive concordance of the Bible. So it has essentially every single word that's written in the Bible. And now this one's based on the King James, as in the old King James. So you got to have a copy of that, because sometimes that's the only way to find out which word you're looking for, because some of the new King James words are not in here. You've got to dig out your old King James, find the scripture, figure out which word you're looking for, and then you can come in here and you look it up. And it's underneath, for instance, I'm on the page for feast right now. Feasts, it's going to give you every scripture that the word feasts is used in. It'll tell you Leviticus 23 verse 2, and it tells you the Hebrew or the Strong's number for that is 4150. But it also uses the word feasts is also used in the New Testament. You'll see further down, and that's done in a different font, italics, and it'll have a different number. So the Hebrew words are there and the Greek words are there. So once you have a number, then you can go back into the applicable section, whether it's Greek or Hebrew, and find a definition, and it'll give you the Hebrew letters and a transliteration of it, so you can attempt to say it to hear what it sounds like. Quite a valuable study tool.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I stick with my paper copies, my books, I can study when the power goes out and my battery went dead on my iPhone, which I'm a BlackBerry guy. But anyway, all I need is a candle, or, I don't need electricity to study this, and it can't be changed. That's another key thing. Anything electronic can be changed at any moment, and you'll never really know. But once it's printed, that's it. It's done. Can't be changed. So
Okay,
I find my paper valuable.
you gonna say something here, or can I get Sombra in on this conversation?
Go ahead.
Go, Sombra, go ahead.
So when we showed up, my backyard was empty. There was nothing there. As a matter of fact, for a few weeks before Sukkoth, we cleared out the grass area under the trees there where you see all the tent. It was all overgrown, 4-foot tall grasses and whatnot. And we cleared out all the boughs and the dead tree branches and everything. And then we started to build our camp. Kurt brought the kitchen, then Stuart put up the big tent, and we put up all our little tents. And along the way, every day we found that things needed to be changed. We were building and building and building our camp. We put the fire pit in.
Okay,
And
Sombra,
then
Sombra,
Yep.
I love where you're going, so I want to bring in, Jenny's got a question here that she sent in. What do you suggest for someone who is not physically strong to building? So you are about to say something that is going to answer her question. So just incorporate that into what you're saying, please.
it's step by step. You don't have to do it perfect. Just do what you can. Because when you do what you can to start with, then you will see what you can add on to that later. And that's the same thing with our spiritual lives. And that's one of the things about Sukkoth and the Succa and it being a tent and Kurt relating it back to Passover is that it's all a cycle, right? Everything is a cycle. And every time you go through the cycle, you build on it. Oh, my phone is dying. You build on what you learn. You build on what you're doing, you build on what you're capable of doing. And so, Jenny, if you can weave some willow branches together, they're soft, they're pliable. It's like basket weaving. And if you can build something that all you can do is just put it over your head, like we saw Jillian's Succa the other day, it was only big enough for little Jilly to sit in. It doesn't have to be enormous. It has to be tangible, though. You have to do with your hands so that you can experience it. And
Or be part of it,
yeah, be a part of it and
like
experience.
a community experience, right?
Right.
That's where I wanted to get to is okay, I'm too weak to pick up a big tree branch. Well, you just pick up twigs and you bring it together, and it's a community. Like you guys,
Yeah.
there's a community there. You know, that's the thing that I'm missing. I'm really missing that this year. I've always had a community. I don't have that this year. But I've had other little things. So it's the community, and you do this together. And Kurt, you started to bring that
Yeah.
out in your presentation, the bonding between you and Stuart.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. Everybody here.
Yeah.
All of the people. Two of the people joined us. I had only met twice before, and we're starting to understand each other now better. You know, we didn't know each other at all, and now we've got new friendship bonds created. Valuable.
Can I, Somber, I don't know if you're done. Can I just comment on what Kurt just said?
No, go ahead.
I've now been to Israel 18 times, and I was never thought I would be able to go. And after the first time, I thought that would be my one and only trip of a lifetime. And I've now been able to go 18 times. And out of that, I have met people and friends from around the world who have become dear friends. And this experience, this Sukkoth experience is what happens. You get into different groups, you meet different people, and yeah, somebody rubs you the wrong way every time you meet them.
That never happens. What are you talking about?
But you get to like them, and you get used to their peculiarities. And when they're not around, you miss them. So that's something else that happens at this time. And, you know, yeah, Kurt said he felt alone in those big crowds at Sukkoth. I had 6,000 people and 5,000 people in Niagara Falls every year. I was always meeting new people. I was always going out and fellowshipping with new people. It was awesome. I loved it. And the same thing in Israel. I got to be with different people in different sukkahs. And yeah, there's a crazy guy that comes in every year from somewhere. And it's always a different crazy guy, which tells me there's lots of crazy guys out there.
So am I it this year?
But it's unifying. It's building a community. It's a similar thing to what we're developing here. And I didn't set out to do that in these weekly meetings, these weekly midrashes. We're developing a community. So
We really are. This, the word mikvah, when we did that study, this is what this is. It's a gathering, like he gathered the waters. It says he gathered his waters in his hand. Well, how does that go? Some stuff falls. It's a messy thing. But that's what we've got here is a gathering of people from, I didn't ask for this, you know. I'm sure you didn't see this coming either, Joe. But
okay, Kurt, when I
we
came out to Alberta and I spoke there in
Hillcrest.
Hillcrest, yes.
Yep.
You were one of the guys in the audience.
Yep.
That was just a one weekend event. But over the years, we've developed this friendship. And that's how it happens, is what I'm trying to say. That's how it develops. And then you get into these communities, these Sukkah events or these Passover events, and you start to develop this friendship. You know,
Well, we become brothers. You know, we really do become brothers. We start to understand each other, understand your plights and my plights, and you can gain empathy for each other.
yeah. Okay, Sombra, are you done?
Well, I wanted to ask if there's other hands up because I'm not actually done, but
Well,
I will
go
give-
ahead. There's only one other hand up, and Paul, he's okay. He can wait a little bit.
Okay. So one of the things Kurt was talking about was function. And we learned so much from Pauline and Ryan. Pauline and Ryan are Native Canadian, Native Americans.
Okay, so hang on. They've got a comment down here, and I was going to try and bring them into this conversation. So if you wanted to do that now, you can do that in what you're saying.
Well, I can't go over there because I'll get feedback. But if Ryan wants to come over here. But Ryan took us on a walk to go and harvest and look at the vegetation and look at the healing and food properties of the different things that just happen to be growing out in my yard, out in my acreage. And before he did that, he did a little ceremony. I think they call it a tobacco ceremony, where he gave back in thanks for what he was about to take. And as he did it, he turned and he shook to the east, and he shook to the west, and he shook to the north, and he shook to the south, and he shook to the heavens, and he shook to the earth, and he shook all around. And that's exactly what we do with the lulav and the etzrog. The function is the same. The actions are the same, and the function of being thankful to Jehovah is the same. It was slightly different in that he was using tobacco. And then we came back to our campground. And as we were talking about things, then we went through the Siddur, and we were talking about that, the laver, and we were talking about the tamid offering, and we were talking about the incense offering. And as we read through these things that are in our Siddur that are very Jewish, they're like, this is exactly what we do in the sweat lodge. This, it's very important to wash our hands and feet. And it's very important to offer these continual offerings. For them, it's not a lamb. For them, it's something called, is it called sweetgrass?
Yeah.
And they braid it together and they put it into the fire, and it just kind of burns long and slow. And then when that one's about to go out, they put another one in. And then there's different incense, there's different spices or grasses that have scent to them. And so again, function. And what's the function of all these things? Even though how they do it may be different than what the Jews do in the temple or Jews did in the temple, the function is to bring us into a relationship with the Creator. The function is to purify ourselves and recognize the things that we've done wrong so that we can lay them down before the Creator. I've just been in awe this week. It's been so unifying to listen and learn. And there have been butting of heads, absolutely. Because, things are different. But that's okay, because the more and this is the next thing I was thinking of, the more you leave your head open, your roof open, the more the Lord can speak to you, and you can learn something by being open up here, being open in the Succa. Because what you said about the stars, we love to go to movies, right? And the movies are going on in the heavens. And what's the movie telling us? The movie is telling us the same thing that is in our word, in our Bibles. And it's the same thing that we're doing, the function that we're doing right this moment, keeping Sukkoth, building community, building relationships, building the actual buildings of our event. We had to build walls to protect us from the wind, and then God moved the wind. He moved the temperature. Lori Dawn is suffering through 30 degrees on the island, and we were suffering through -4 degrees over here. There's suffering to it, and being willing to suffer through these elements. It's our worship. It would be easy to run away and go, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go in the house. But the more you suffer through these things and you experience it and you get past it and you go through it and you go, oh, trials and tribulations of life, butting heads with your brethren and having disagreements, and then working through the relationship, through the problem, and getting to a point where you, okay, well, we still disagree, but that's okay. We've agreed that the most important thing is that we stay together and we keep on learning together and we keep on worshiping together. That's the important thing. It's been fabulous. I'm having a great time.
Awesome. Be joyful. Be
I
joyful.
am.
It's a commandment. No,
I
it's
have
a
no
commandment. And if you're going to be unjoyful, go away by yourself. Don't affect everybody else. Let them all be joyful.
Yep.
Okay, are you done, ma'am? Can I
am.
I'll leave on a happy note. Paul Collier, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, Joe, it's just awesome that you read Psalm 19. Have he set a tabernacle for the sun? What is a tabernacle? It's a place of dwelling. Is your heart a tabernacle? Is you've got the key to the door of your heart. When you open it for Jehovah, he comes in and dwells in a tabernacle, which is only for a short period of time on this planet. But he dwells there. It is teaching us that he is the one looking after us, even though we invite him into our tabernacle. It is a temporary dwelling. We're only here but for a day or an hour or whatever the time be. It is everything that we've been talking about is a place where we meet with our shepherd. But we have something else there. There are other tabernacles in the sheep pen, and we share with those tabernacles, and we are tabernacling together. And that is what you are teaching us to do every day. And Jehovah is guiding us in everything that we do. And I appreciate that in what everybody is sharing. And my friend here, Pastor Gary, is he does that with me. So we are sheep in a paddock, tabernacling together, but eating of his pasture, his words. It's just awesome. And I want to thank you for that.
Paul, you touch on something there. It makes me think when I was the word for wilderness, which I'm going off my head here. So I think it's the bar or midbar.
Midbar.
Midbar is wilderness. When you look that one up, there's another definition. It's pasture.
Yeah.
Very different connotations between pasture and wilderness. He looked after us. You know what happens in a pasture, right? There's a fence, there's a het. He looked after us the whole time, and that's what I'm getting out of this. You know, he's going to look after us. We just have to obey. We just have to do it.
Yeah, he's good, and his mercies endure forever.
Okay. Sorry. You guys.
Go ahead, Joe.
Yep. Pamela, go ahead. Pamela, we can't hear you if you're there.
Unmute.
There we go.
Sorry.
Hi, Pamela.
I was just thanking you profusely, Kurt. I appreciated that. And Sambra's additions as well.
Thank you.
And what you said about being the sheep and being protected made something go off in my head. I was blessed to spend 3 weeks in Israel a couple of years ago with a friend who had been there many times. So we got out and about. We weren't with a tour group. We saw a lot of things that were wild. We saw wild donkeys, wild camels, wild goats. We saw a wild dog. We did not see any wild sheep. Sheep need a leader. They can't survive without someone to encompass and protect them and lead them and tabernacle with them. So I thought that was just amazing and awesome. What a provision he's made for us.
That's the lamed. The sheep shepherd uses the lamed.
Thank
My
you again.
lamed just
So hey,
flipped
hang on,
over.
Kurt. You got to just tell people what the lamed is. They don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, the lamed is the Hebrew letter, kind of equivalent to an L. It means staff, I believe, is what it means. If I can get my chart off the board here. So English letters mean nothing, right? It's just a placeholder. There's no meaning between an A means no different than a Z in English. But in Hebrew, each letter has meaning to it. And how each letter is used, when you put one beside another, it becomes a new meaning, but that new word is related to each letter. You can see the relationship. So lamed has a basic meaning of staff. Well, what's a staff used for, right? It's to teach. Teach your sheep, keep them in control. You give them a little prod, and there's my staff. I'm getting prodded right now. Pulled off. Good thing there's no hook. She'd pull me off the camera. So that's the basic meaning of the word lamed, is staff.
Okay. Well, I have, you mentioned during your presentation something that triggered something in me.
Okay.
And so I wrote Randy and I asked Randy to get ready to comment on it. And you're talking about the tabernacle and you're talking about the Succa. And then you connected it, no, hang on, you connected the Succa to the tabernacle. And I wanted Randy to comment on that part. I wanted him to fill us in on this a little bit. So I'm tossing the ball at Randy right now. So if he wants to try and bring us, how is the Succa, the temporary dwelling that we dwell in during Succa, through Sukkoth, how is that connected to the Mishkan?
Well, there's one of the words. That's one of the words when you're searching for Succa, you're going to come across the word Mishkan. And hopefully Randy can add to that. Where's Randy?
I'm here. I'm just, I'm just sitting here looking at the pictures, everything's made of, no man-made elements, lumber, leather, fabric. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just, the hole in the roof, on the Succa as well. Just the fact that he was here dwelling with us. Where am I going with this, Kurt?
Well, there's a lot of where do you start? There's so many. I was thinking about these words, twisted and thatching. The word twisted reminds, I think that's the meaning of one of the meanings of the word tet, or letter tet. It's some of the descriptions will describe it or define it as a basket. What's a basket? It's weaved out of sticks and branches, probably willows because they're supple. The words, the samic, the structure, this is the foundation. cough, the open hand offering, you know, he's offering for us.
It's like the ribs, I guess. You've got the north side and the south side. It looks like a finger. So, you know, that could be explaining something like it, just how it's put together like a finger. I'm trying to, you know, put something to, as far as the soup is concerned, but maybe Randall can throw a little something at us. I see him over there trying to describe something, but go ahead, Kurt.
Well, I haven't seen what you're talking about. I haven't seen the pictures, but from the sounds of it, this is a really big structure. So
It is. It's just like, you know, your the poles that you put together on your pup tents. You know, it's got the arch to it, but they're flexible enough to go from one corner to the other corner, another corner. Well, these here come up and meet in the center.
So is that
same concept on that.
Is that what you're, if what's coming through my mind is those sockets were actually to join the tent poles, just like those cheesy aluminum and fiberglass ones that we get in our tents that break in the wind. But
Right.
that's the concept of a socket, and the pole inserts into that socket, and then you make this arch.
Correct. What is it? 5 pieces, 4 pieces? I got it right here in front of me. Correct, with the sockets and then the legs. You got the ring in the center, which is the Holy of Holies in the center, so that you can, that's of course where the pillar of fire or the column of smoke was, in the, just an open roof to see the stars. A lot of similarities to it. As a door, of course, that's where you do your offerings, at the door.
Yeah, there's one design. Next year I'll design my, I'll actually have a floor plan. I'll have a bet next year, because I don't have a wall for privacy. It's wide open. I don't have a door to keep the animals out. You know, they can stay out of the north side and the east and west, but they're free to come in the other one.
Right. Like you say, the bed is like a tent where you have your private space, and then you have it to where you can come out and socialize, or however you want to put it. So, right.
Yeah, I didn't create that next year. For me, I grew up in the 4-H system. What's in 4-H it's a group in Canada that, I don't know, it's usually for kids up to young adults, and they had a saying that there was various things you could learn in there, but one of their sayings was, learn to do by doing. Just do it. Whatever it is you can, just do it. You're gonna learn from it, and you'll learn that it's not good enough, you know, but you'll do it again, and you'll do it a little better, and you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Which results in, if we obey, just like the tabernacle, he told Moses to build it. What happened once he finished it? He came and tabernacled with us. Sukkoth, is that the same scenario? We build our sukkahs and he comes and dwells with us?
Yeah, we're to dwell in it, not just build it and leave it sit there as an ornament. Dwell in it. Live in it.
Well, that was our reward. His presence being with us once we concluded by doing what we were told, which was to build it. So that's the same thing with the Succa, I'm thinking.
Oh, what do we got going here? Here's Brian. Brian's got something to offer.
You asked me something, so I got.
Do you want to slide in here?
Um,
Okay, you're not quite ready. We truly have learned a lot from Ryan and Pauline, bringing a native perspective to things. You know, certainly there's differences, but there's stuff. I fully believe that the natives were given a piece of the puzzle and they've hung on to it. And
One of the things that one of my studies in searching the calendar led me to Michigan, actually just across the river from Sarnia, Ontario, is Port Huron. They found a site, and they found in the site a whole lot of calendars. And the calendars had the temple in it. And they were trying to figure out, how did the temple end up in these Indian sites, Indian remains on stone tablets, and yet on the stone tablets they had not Indians, but they had what looked like armies from the Middle East. And there's a whole slew of tablets there giving the calendar and worshiping at the temple. And when you do some more research, you can find out that King David had his empire around the world. And from northern Michigan and Wisconsin, up there is a site where their copper is still pure. And it's so pure that they used to hammer it out with a club and break it off in chunks, and they would bring it down to the Three Rivers in Ohio. And there they would collect it, and they would ship it down the Mississippi and over to Israel, to Jerusalem. And that copper was used for the temple. This trade route was created by King David. His empire spanned the world. The word Brazil, BZL, is a Hebrew word for iron. And Brazil is still the iron capital of the world. But this is what David did and Solomon did. But then in 723, the empire of Israel was collapsed. And then in 586, the empire of Judah was collapsed. And some of those people fled to North Africa, which is called Carthage, the Carthaginians. And they fought with the Romans in the Carthaginian Wars. There's another word starts with a P, I forgot what it is. But once the Carthaginians were defeated, and this is 200 AD, I believe it is, if I got my dates right, 200 AD or 200 BC, I forget. The access to the world on the other side of the, North America was closed, because one of the great things that the Carthaginians did was they told people that if you go out to the past the Pillars of Hercules, you would fall off the edge of the world. So the Romans and the Greeks would not go past there because they believed that to be true, that the edge of the world you'd fall off. So the Carthaginians kept that trade route open. That's why you see it. That's why you see at the mouth of the Mississippi River, blacks who were never slaves, blacks whose history goes back, black Indians whose history goes back thousands of years before there was ever any Europeans in North America. They were stranded here. We have hieroglyphs from Egypt in the Grand Canyon Valley. How did they get here? Well, there was a trade route at that time. So in North America, we have Hebrew writings of the Ten Commandments in New Mexico.
Yep.
I have a stone here. Just hang on, I'll grab it.
Were you referring to Partha earlier? It's the other nation?
I'll let you sit here.
This is, if you can see it, this is the Ten Commandment stone. It's dug up from an Indian mound in Ohio. Now what I have is a replica. On the side of it, it's broke off from my traveling, but on the side of it, I don't know if you can see it. Oh, there, if I shine it like that, you can see the Hebrew words written in the side of it, of the Ten Commandments.
Paleo
Paleo-Hebrew, from the Indian mounds in Ohio. Okay, so in Ohio was the center for this tribe or these groups of people from Israel. But after the fall of Israel, and after the fall of Judah, and after the fall of Carthage, these people were stranded here in North America. Now, there is a tradition that the Cherokee are Hebrew people. It could very well be. There are also the Picts, and they came from Northern Ireland or Northern Scotland, and they were brought over here, but they are not Israelites. These are some of the people that the Joshua fought against. So in North America, they began to get mixtures. And then in the different tribes, there are different Indian tribes that are very different from each other, and they're not similar. So what I'm getting at is that if you go back and do the ancient history and you do the actual research, not all Indians are of the Hebrew race, but some of them are. And for some of those traditions from the temple to be passed down, it's not a far-fetched thing. So I have another book right here. Where was it? It has, let's see, is this the one? No, this isn't the one. That's one. Anyway, it has all these calendars in it found in Michigan that are at least 1,000 years old, and they're Hebraic. And so what you're telling me, is it Paul? No, is it
Ryan.
Ryan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is Ryan. I've got Ryan here now. He's going to show us something. He's got some plans.
Nice to meet you. I'm just giving you a little background of some of the research I've done. We have a number of articles on our website about North American Indians and where they come from. So where some of them come from, not all of them, but where some of them come from. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because, yeah, there is some things here that come from the empire of King David. How's that for an introduction? Was that a good one or not?
Well, I guess so, because I'm really not fluent in the Bible. I've been brought up as a child of I'll just say it, priestly people, because from what I understand about being a priest from Israel is that you got to know everything you need to know about the sky and the heavens, about earth, and about the way of life that we have as Native people. It is said that we had the oldest Bible, and it came from the Cherokee. And Yeshua came from Israel, and he went to the Cherokee, because in the Cherokee they have a man. I don't know who this guy is, but all I know is that he was the first native to actually write in Hebrew. He was a native that written all the Paleo-Hebrew language, and by doing that, Yeshua is the teacher, and he was teaching the Cherokee how to do this. And what he did is that he written the 10 Commandments inside of a Bible. The Bible itself, the oldest Bible that the Native people had, was the actual words that Yeshua placed in this guy's head in order for him to write and cipher all what he has been written. Now this the Bible that we're talking about. Okay. The Bible that we're talking about right now is the Bible that the Queen has, and we can't get it back. We've been wanting to get that Bible back, but what happened is that she distorted everything about that Bible that was given to us, the Native people. In turn, there was a lot to say about a lot of the medicines and all the smudges, because back in the day, my grandfather, I don't know how he ever got the information, but that was part of the information that he handed all of us boys down from generation to generation to generation. We forgot how the stories went, but we still kept the Succa that you see in the background over here, but a little smaller and a little shorter. But in actual reality, we've never tied any of the branches. It was all woven. Everything was all woven into it. And on my wife's phone, she's got a sweat lodge, the one that I was taught how to build without putting any kind of rope or anything on it. It's made up of 16 willows
So
for the
how do you
base.
do this?
I don't know if you can do that or not.
It's a picture.
Just
Can
put
you-
it close to the camera.
I'm gonna put a picture up close to the camera and see if you can see it.
A little lower, Kurt.
Right about there.
There.
Okay.
If you could see that lodge, that's the lodge that was gifted to me. But in all duration is that we have an altar inside of the lodge. And also we have an altar outside of the lodge. And I don't really know what the significant ordeal about that is, but all we know is that we cover it with back in the day, before they even came out with cloth, they covered it with hides. So that this way you'll keep the rain and the sun and what else, the elements out of our sukkah. In turn, Yeshua said that I will plant a plant over here that I'll get from Israel and place it onto the ground here in the United States for us as a priestly people, and it's called sweet grass. And I don't know if you could see it or not, but this is what it's all braided out already. It already has, in actual reality, it's a big leaf, but it only has anywhere from 3, if anything, 4 leaves on it. But it's still the same kind of sweetgrass as they call over there in Israel, lemongrass. It smells just like lemons. And they use this here sweetgrass here is basically the main incense they used over there to bless everything and everybody. This is what they call a blessing for the native population out there. It's called sweetgrass.
Your camera's there. You
Okay.
have to talk to that camera.
Not him.
That's Joe on the screen.
We-
That's the camera.
What we need is a
Well, see, in all duration, I still see you in the big camera, so it doesn't matter. I'm still talking to you. And then on top of that, see this right here. This is what they call sage. It's a one branch sage, and the one branch sage is back in the days that, see, when they offered any type of any let's see, smudges, the poor would go out and get this. The people that can't afford or to pick this stuff, the lemongrass. So what they did is they used the sage for the poor people to come in and do their what do they call it, their smudge or their incense offering. And then in due time, for all the stuff that you guys are talking about in the Bible, what's been happening is that everything that is as the native been taught from Israel, the ones that floated over here, the ones that stayed here, the ones that just said, well, this is a different country. I want to stay here and I want to teach my people here how to keep on continually using the stuff that we use over there. Because in all of our languages, we all have what they call paleo. And most of the languages are based on the paleo that us native peoples on the land know how to pray.
And it's in our song.
And it's also in our songs. And thank you, sweetheart, for reminding me.
Yeah.
Because each one of our songs, we all have Yah. The very stipulation of the way the Hebrews call God is they call him Yah. But anyway, that's part of what I can just offer into what you guys are talking about, because when it comes right down to it, is that we've been so practicing this way for century after century after century, And then back in the day when the Catholics came out and they said, well, that's evil, what you guys are doing. So back in the day, we figured out that, okay, if this is evil, then what is good? So now we're finding out that Yeshua said, this is not evil. This is something that I gave you people to go ahead and teach the world of what I know and what I've been teaching you. But that's part of what I could just bring to the table, is that these are the two main gifts that he had given us. And also that keeping the Succa. We use that Succa year round, even through the winter time. Because there is feast that we know how to keep that Succa warm in the winter time. There is feasts that we do, and we usually use our Succa for that feast during that time. We don't, back in the day when we heard about, oh yeah, people are going to the hotel, we used to laugh because they didn't know what the Succa was, because it was a sweat lodge, and they were scared to ask us because we already knew the information on it.
I got a question for you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Is there any native traditions for keeping Shabbat?
Right now, I like I said, I'm just really starting to this is my first time coming out for this kind of a study, and I don't know what you mean by Shabbat.
Sabbath.
The Sabbath.
Seventh day.
Oh, the seventh day. The weekly fast day, or what?
The rest day, or the Saturday.
Oh, it's a Saturday. Okay, so basically, when that queen took our Bible, we knew how to do that. We all had to sit down and basically take that day off and just rest. No fishing, no hunting, no nothing. All our food is already prepared, because before we had that rest day, all the food the very next 2 days prior, leading up to the rest day, was already prepared. Everything was already prepared. And back in the day too, is that, see, when they had to go and kill their animals and get the nourishments that they needed, all the roots, everything that they needed for that day of rest. What they did is that they went and they dried everything, and the only thing that they had to do was just keep the fire going. And when they kept the fire going, they kept most of the stuff, the utensils that they had back in the day. I hate to get into it because there's a lot of stuff that people say, "Ooh, they cooking, that's, oh my God, that's what." And it's just that we kept everything what we were taught. We kept everything up as far as dry meat goes. We kept that up because dry meat, when you have dry meat that was hanging for at least throughout the summer, we stockpiled that dry meat up. We had caches to where we went and cashed them out. We even had little pouches that every female and male had made for themselves to feed their family throughout the day, or throughout that day that we did for that rest day. Right now I'm just trying to do that every time Saturday rolls around. It's like, okay, well, Sunday's coming, that's our rest day. And then my wife says, no, we got to go this way and do it this way. We got to change it back to Saturday. It's like, really? Got to relearn a lot of stuff.
That's good. Before we get too far gone here, it's 12:12 here, and we're coming back at 3 o'clock for this afternoon. I'm going to ask Kurt if you mind closing off in prayer, and we'll keep the room open until say 12:30, but we'll stop the recording here now. If Kurt, you can do that, and unless there's someone else with another question that they want to throw in here, but let's just shut this down and get ready for later.
Jehovah, Father, Creator, Giver of life, King of the universe, Creator of all things. Give thanks to you for the many blessings you pour out on us and the many gifts. We thank you for this time, your Feast of Sukkoth, which is finished. We're beginning, now we're on to the 8th day. We've closed one chapter and opening another. We ask that you show us the meaning of the 8th day, like you've shown us the meaning of Sukkoth. We just ask those who are new at this, that you may inspire them to do what they can to obey. Just do what he said. Sometimes it's not easy, Father. Give us the strength so that we can do that. Some of us are walking alone in this journey. I ask that you strengthen those people who are alone. Give them the strength to walk alone till they can find somebody who will walk with them. And the people who have community, strengthen those communities, help them to overcome their differences, put them aside. We have more in common than we have different. We're a box of pencil crayons, Father. We're all different colors. Some colors don't mix well with others, but they really go beautifully with another. And help us to realize that we all have part to play in this, in your mikvah, your gathering. You gathered us together. So, Father, we just ask for your inspiration. Help us to learn. Show us what it is that you want us to see so that we can see plainly. Remove the scales. And we just ask that you bring us all back together this afternoon and safely, and ask this that so that your name is glorified in heaven and on earth. Amen.
Amen. Okay, and so thank you, Kurt, for this teaching this morning. Those of you,
Thanks for the opportunity.
hey, no, well, that's what we're here for. We're trying to get more people involved, more people to teach. Some people have other subjects that I probably wouldn't cover. And we have, yeah, I see Pamela's head sticking up there. Yeah, we even have women teaching here.
Yes.
And they have valuable input. So we got a surprise coming up shortly. I hope you all come back for that surprise. I won't tell you when. That's the surprise part. But if you want to teach, contact Randy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to continue to listen. All these teachings are being put up there as we produce them. Unedited. You see what we deal with. Camera problems, mic problems, sun problems. But we keep on doing it, and we're doing this live. So you're welcome to join us wherever you are around the world, because we have people from around the world, and we have this ability to do this now. So please do come and join us in the future. But for the rest of you, this mic or the recording will be off, and the room will be open for another 15 minutes. Okay? Chag Sameach, everyone.
Chag Sameach.